All right. We're going to begin this morning introducing the verse of the month for December. So, believe it or not, we've been doing this well over a year, the verses of the month. So I hope it's been blessing you, just kind of that place of focus each month, just returning to something each week. I didn't have to pray very long. I felt like God gave me this one pretty quickly. Luke 2:10. The angel said to them, "Fear not, for behold, I bring you good news of great joy that will be for all the people." His words to the shepherds when he proclaimed and announced the birth of Jesus. It goes on obviously from there, especially if you watch Charlie Brown Christmas, it's the Lord, the Savior has been born, the city of David. But this one just really spoke into my heart. Fear not. Where are you at? What are you going through? What's happening in your life right now? Fear not. Why? Behold, look, see. I am bringing you good news of great joy for all the people. Not just the people that have it all together, not just the people that, things are great. This is for all people, for the one in the jail cell, for the one on the streets. Wherever you're at, wherever you are, they brought a message. They said this is good news of great joy. A Savior. And not to have two sermons packed into this morning, but just very briefly remind you of something I shared last year. I always get Luke and Matthew confused, but in one of them, anyway, when he talked to Mary, he said, "You will have this baby, and the baby will name Jesus," which Jehovah saves. God saves. He will save his people. And this was to fulfill the prophecy that said the virgin will be with child, be called Emmanuel, God with us. And like I said last year, is this schizophrenia? Is this multiple personality? Which name is it? Yes, both. Our salvation, Jesus' salvation, is inherent in the fact that he is Emmanuel. We were created to live in intimate relationship with God. We were separated when we took a path of sin. He died on a cross. He came at Christmas that he might aim and die on a cross, that he could pay for the sin so we could be reunited with him, God with us and us with God together. That is the good news of great joy. We often sell the gospel, I don't even sell it, it's the wrong word, but try and, as if it's all about heaven someday. No, it's about salvation at this moment. It is about being brought back into relationship with God now. Behold, I bring you good news of great joy. And as Kathy said, when she was talking about the chorus of that song, I don't need to be afraid. This is the very first words, fear not. I think that is more than just, the sky just lit up and there's a bunch of angels and this is totally freaky and whoa, and we're trembling. Don't be afraid. I'm sure that's a part of it. But because of the multitude of scriptural evidences beyond that say we are not to be a people of fear. We have not been given a spirit of fear, but of sound mind, self-control, peace. We're not to be afraid. He is God, and he is with us. And so this is the verse I would ask you to just meditate on throughout this month. And what does it mean? Wherever you are at, there's no conditions on this. The only condition is that you receive the gift that came and lay in that manger and ended on a cross. There's nothing else there. Now that receiving the gift involves a repentance, a turning of direction, a turning to God, all of that. But it doesn't say except for those who. For all the people. And so that's our verse. So this morning, the last three or so teachings of my two and Kathy's, we kind of been looking at this heart of Thanksgiving, and We looked at how no matter who we are or what we've done or where we find ourselves, God has a plan for us. He loves us. He says we are worth His life, that He wants to be with us forever. And this destiny lies dormant in every person. Those that we would write off and walk past and go, just junk, worthless, whatever, lost cause, whatever. The ones everyone else has written off. Maybe the one who's written themselves off. I've tried so many times and fallen and fallen and fallen. God says, no. I have a plan for you. I love you. I made you. I died for you. And it lies dormant waiting for that surrender. That person to surrender, to give unto Him their all. And to begin to live in that intimate relationship with Him. And that is something to be thankful for. That is something that we can be thankful for us, for our loved ones, for any. No one is written off in God's kingdom. None. We have this thankfulness that everything good in our lives is our Creator's active, loving, grace, mercy-led hand at work in our lives. Do not be deceived. Every good and perfect gift has come down from the Father. And then we have this idea that I looked at last week, that all our future hope is found in Him, in His promises. Everything we hold to, and we have those, and we can count on those because it is God who promised. It is not broken, frail, prone to failure, I will let you down, Eric, who has promised. It is God who promises. And God cannot lie, and God is faithful, and so we can be thankful for that. We can be thankful, again, that there's no life written off in God. That every goodness, a bit of goodness in your life is the active hand of God in it. And that all your hope for the future is given by God and is assured in God. All of that is something to be thankful for. And so we've looked at that, and then this morning, being the first Sunday of December, naturally we start to look ahead, right? So that we've kind of come out of this season of Thanksgiving. I mean, hopefully Thanksgiving will always be a hallmark of our Christian life. But, now we start to focus, and we start to look to the baby in the manger, and Christmas. And we start to look at this God that would come and be laid in that manger and aim towards the cross and would die for us because He loves us, that He would be with us forever. And we look at both of those, and they're both such valid directions to look as a Christian. We should always be looking towards God to come to earth and the salvation and the joy of that and the love, and always be thankful and filled with hope and fear not. But today, sort of between those two, closing out Thanksgiving and beginning Christmas, I want to look at reminding us who this God is that has given us every good thing in our life, that gives us a future and a hope, and who laid Himself in a manger as a baby. Because sometimes I think we can focus, and this is being said by the guy that, God willing, on Friday night is going to gather all the kids to put that little baby in the manger and focus on that, and we'll put the larger little manger under the tree when we're all done on Friday night. But sometimes I think if we're not careful, we see God, this baby in a manger, tiny and cute and cuddly and maybe needy. And we forget just how utterly astounding it is that is God. If someone does something, one of us does something nice for one of us, we're thankful for it. Now, if we wounded that person and they still do something nice for us, we're maybe very thankful or appreciative. We're kind of like, wow, that's really awesome. But God, just think about that. every bit of goodness in your life, every bit of hope you have for the future, is because God has chosen to be active in your life and give it to you. And that little, cute, adorable baby wrapped in blue blankets, surrounded by wise men and Mary and Joseph and sheep and, camels adoringly looking at it. How cute is God. Star-breathing, ferocious, judgment passing, justice wielding. God. And I just want to set us up for this Christmas season by reminding us who he is. I think David got what I'm trying to say. I'm going to read the whole psalm, then Carolyn, I'll tell you when to bring up one part of it. In Psalm 8, verses 1 through 9, he said, O Lord, how majestic is your name in all the earth. You have set your glory above the heavens. Out of the mouth of babies and infants you have established strength because of your foes, to still the enemy and the avenger. When I look at your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars which you have set in place, what is man that you are mindful of him, and the son of man that you care for him? Yet you have made him a little lower than the heavenly beings, and some translations than you yourself, God. It's Elohim and how you translate that word. You have crowned him with glory and honor. You have given him dominion over the works of your hands. You have put all things under his feet. All the sheep and the oxen, the beasts of the field, the birds of the heavens, the fish of the sea, whatever passes along the paths of the seas. O Lord, how majestic is your name in all the earth. Now David got casual with God. We know that. I look at David's life. There were moments that he chose to serve his own flesh, his own plans, his own desires. He walked away from God. He struggled. But David always came back. And he kept coming back into alignment with the awe and the thankfulness that is the appropriate response to realizing who our God is. And this is what I don't want us to lose, is realizing and remembering who our God is and the focus on a baby in a manger. Bring up verse 4 of Psalm 8, please, Carolyn. David's just standing there. He's looking at the stars, the moons. He's looking at all of this and just going, what is man that you are mindful of him? Who are we? Who are we, God? You made all this. Go out there tonight and stand under those stars and just spend some time thinking about them. If you find Orion, the three in a belt, the belt, go to the upper left of the belt. Look at the one that's slightly red. That's Betelgeuse. That star, you put it where our sun is, it would take in all the way out to Jupiter, I think I remember. It would all be inside of it. He made those. And David's just sitting there going, and he didn't have the Hubble. He didn't have the Webb, telescope. He didn't have any. He's just sitting there looking, probably reflecting on those nights as a shepherd when he was just out there tending dad's sheep. He's like, this is huge. This is crazy. You made this, God. Who are we that you would even be mindful of us? I shared last week when the people, including David, brought tremendous offerings for the building of the temple. David didn't go, oh, you guys are so wonderful. What was his response? 1 Chronicles 29:14. Who am I? What are my people that we should be able to thus offer willingly? All the things come from you, and of your own we have given you. I'm not going to rehash that too much. We talked about it last time, but this is David's heart. He got it. He sees all the people bringing all this stuff, and he's not going, aren't we something special? He's going, who are we that we even have this to give? You've given it all to us, God. It all came from you. We're just giving you back what you gave us. Every gift you have, every talent you have, every blessing in your life is God's gift. Do not be deceived, my brethren. Every good and perfect gift has come down from God. It is God who looked into you and said, this one I give to you. wow. Wow. And I think this is what we see. This is what David's doing. He's like, who are we? Why? I've shared with you before I became a Christian, and it's kind of had the world by the tail, did good in school, did everything else. It's kind of like, well, if he's real, why wouldn't he give good things? Why wouldn't we? We're good people. I'm a good person. This kind of. But as I've grown in him, it goes, why would he? I'm so aware of my darkness, and I know his holiness, and it's like, but yet he does. We have on our property, we keep up a big cross year-round down by the road, so everyone driving by can see it. And this time of year, we bring out a manger and we put it in front of it to kind of remind people that he came. We don't take the cross down, though, because that shadow of the cross hung over the manger for God. He probably the only one on earth who got it at that moment. But God knew why he'd come and where he was headed. But even that's not the whole picture. I was thinking about if we really wanted, and don't worry, family, I'm not going to make us do this, but if we really wanted the whole tapestry, right? If we wanted to really tell the picture, we'd go to one side of that whole scene, and we'd somehow do this huge display of God speaking, and from his breath coming forth stars, and calling into existence light, and forming an earth. And then on the other side, somewhere down on this side of our property, we'd have him coming back on a white horse leading the armies of heaven to trample out the fury of the Father and the justice upon evil. And we would have him speak in demolishing this heaven and earth, these heavens and the earth, and creating whole new heavens and earth. I don't know how we do that, but behind then all that, we have another display, which is God, who is the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end, outside of all time, encompassing all of that. And somehow we might begin to get a glimpse of this God, this who is this baby in the manger. He's huge. He's awesome. He's ferocious. And every bit of goodness in your life, and every bit of hope you have, is him saying, I love you. And I have carried everything you've done wrong against me and wiped it clean with my own life, my blood, my body. I don't see it anymore. Here, it's grace. It's his gift that we have done nothing to deserve. I think so often of Isaiah. Bring up Isaiah 6, please, 1-5. In that year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord sitting upon a throne high and lifted up, and the train of his robe filled the temple. Above him stood the seraphim. Each had 6 wings. With 2 he covered his face, with 2 he covered his feet, with 2 he flew. One called to another and said, Holy, holy. And I didn't know Rich was doing this song today, and Rich didn't know I was bringing this verse up. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is full of his glory. Next page, please. And the foundations of the threshold shook at the voice of him who called, and the house was filled with smoke. And I said, Woe is me, for I am lost. For I am a man of unclean lips, and I dwell in the midst of a people of unclean lips. For my eyes have seen the King, the Lord of hosts. God did not say one word to Isaiah of condemnation. Isaiah was probably what we would have called a good person. I mean, after all, God was calling him to be a prophet unto the nation of Israel, one of the most dominant voices of the Bible, one of the most quoted prophetic words that we have. He would proclaim the birth of the Messiah 700-800 years later. So Isaiah obviously had something going for him, right? Probably who we would look at and go, wow, there's a super spiritual person, or there's a good person. Isaiah gets his glimpse of the holiness of God, and he's like, I'm done. I'm done. I've seen God, I'm toast. I've just glimpsed his holiness, I don't have a chance. And then the rest of that, go read it, I encourage you. God brings the coal from the altar and touches him and cleanses his lips and calls him forth. In his response, when God says, who will we send? He says, here am I. Send me. Here I am. What happened? He glimpsed the holiness of God. And that's just what I want to remind us of this morning, as we're so grateful for his hand in our life, and as we look at this Christmas message, the songs we sing is so filled with awe and joy because of who it is that lay in that manger. It is stunning, crazy, mind-boggling, fall to the floor. Oh my golly, how can this be? Incredible because of who God is. The Apostle John, another one. I mean, talk about anyone who had good marks in heaven, right? A great report card. I mean, this is the one probably that Jesus, in the Gospels refers to as the one whom Jesus loved. He leaned probably against Jesus at the Last Supper. God had plans for him. He spent his life serving God, right? He ends up in exile on an island because of his service for God. And he's sitting there and God appears. Jesus appears. Not the baby in the manger, but the resurrected, glorious Jesus, about to give him the words of the book of Revelation. And here's what happens. Revelations 1:12-18. I turned to see the voice that was speaking to me, and on turning I saw 7 golden lampstands. In the midst of the lampstands, one like a son of God, clothed with a long robe and with a golden sash around his chest. The hairs of his head were white like wool, as white as snow. His eyes were like a flame of fire. His feet were like burnished bronze, refined in a furnace. His voice was like the roar of many waters. In his right hand he held 7 stars. From his mouth came a sharp 2-edged sword. His face was like the sun shining in full strength. When I saw him, I, John, the one Jesus loved, the good apostle, I fell at his feet as though dead. But he laid his right hand on me, saying, fear not. I am the first and the last and the living one. I died, and behold, I am alive forevermore, and I have the keys of death and Hades. John, of all people who should be kind of like, hey, Lord, what's up? Well, we're here, right? Buds. He sees the risen, resurrected, glorious Lord, and just falls down as dead. He glimpsed the holiness of God, the ferocity of God. He's just like, oh. That's our God. That's the baby in the manger. And when we lay out those nativity scenes, we can't forget that. Yes, it's cute, and yes, it's cuddly, and there's nothing wrong with it, and I love to put it out. It's one of my favorite things, when we're able to do that. But don't forget what makes that so crazy is it's this one. This is the baby in the manger, the one with the 2-edged sword coming from his mouth and the flaming fire that causes the most good among us to fall down and cry out, I am undone, I am dead. When we glimpse his holiness, but yet he said, run into my arms. Because of the cross, I call you my child, and you can call me Abba, Father. That's what makes it so crazy. That's what makes it so mind-boggling. We cannot lose the holiness of God. The awe and the wonder, or we missed it. It's just Christmas. I mean, we sing the carols and we're not going to fall down like, oh, if we don't remember who this baby is. That's what makes it so crazy. I look at the stars, Lord. I look at your resurrected glory. Who are we? You would be mindful of us. One of the verses that Kathy brought up when she taught, Psalm 100, verse 3. Know that the Lord, He is God. It is He who made us, and we are His. We are His people and the sheep of His pasture. Know that the Lord, He is God. One time I did something that's kind of weird, but I realized we just use the word God so casually, right? Don't we all? We're good Christians, we throw it out all the time. One day I just stopped and I just said, He is God. And I just kept saying it. And at some point, I don't know how it happened or where, but it went from He is God, He is God. And there was like this holiness that suddenly reattached to that word. He is and there is none other. Know that the Lord, He is God. It is He who made us, and we are His people, and the sheep of His pasture. He is God. That, Christian, is who lives within you, who has sealed you for eternity, who has sealed all your loved ones who have chosen Him. He is the one all your hope and your promise lies, and He is the one that every good thing in your life has come from, God. Not just your parents, parents supposed to got to be good to you and everything else. This is the one who had no obligation, who knew everything about you, how you would turn out, and said, I give you life, and I give you then my life, that our life can be together forever because I love you. Who says that? God. Let that word return to its holiness and reverence. God says that about you. The Philistines returned the Ark of the Covenant. They've captured it, and it just brought them unknown grief, and so they finally shoved it back into a village in Israel, and the people of the village come over. Look, what happens? 1 Samuel 6, 19, 20. He struck some of the men of Beth-Shemesh because they looked upon the ark of the Lord. He struck 70 men of them. Other translations say 50,000 men. Depending how you translate, it's a little unclear in the original manuscripts. The people mourned because the Lord had struck the people with a great blow. The men of Beth-Shemesh said, who is able to stand before the Lord, this holy God? They simply sought to approach His holiness on their own, their way, to handle God their way. They thought to just glimpse at the Ark of the Covenant, the meeting place of God and man, and they fell to the ground dead, struck. God is holy. Man may not approach God on our own. We are broken, sin-filled, flawed, faithless messes. He came, the baby in the manger, this holy God, and hung on that cross to do for us what we could not do, to pay what we could not afford, to earn what we could not earn, that we could be with Him forever. This is the joy of Christmas. Behold, fear not, I bring you good news of great joy. What you were helpless and hopeless to do on your own, what I had no hope of doing in my deceived, blasphemous, arrogant state, God reached into my life and hung on a cross and said, I love you, and I am yours. All your flaws, all your mistakes, past, present, and future, nailed to that cross by the baby that came and was laid in an animal feed trough in a borrowed stable. That baby is the Holy One of Israel, the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. He is God. The youth will remember we talked about when David sought to bring the ark back to Jerusalem, and Uzzah, the good-natured priest who just, the oxen stumble, the wagon starts to fall. He reaches out to steady the ark. Good, right? Good, deed. Boom, falls to the ground dead because he dared touch the holiness of God. And yet God tells us, come with confidence before my throne of grace. Call me Abba, Father. Come, children. I love you. I will never leave you or forsake you. That's how complete the work of the cross is. And the cross happened because of Christmas. Christmas happened because of the cross. You can't separate the two. And those happened by a holy God because He said, I love you. That cute, cuddly baby in the manger, the God who gives you good things, this is the same God, Colossians 1, 16, 17. I'm going to go through these kind of quickly, Carolyn. For by him all things were created in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or dominions or rulers or authorities, all things were created through him and for him, and he is before all things, and in him all things hold together. That's the baby in the manger. All things created through him, for him, by him, and in him all things hold together. That is the baby in the manger. When we look at that baby, let us not forget, this is him. Creator, maker of all, the only reason you and I even have life, that baby in the manger. The one who surrendered his rights as God, who stepped down from his throne in glory to live in our mess and muck, to bring us back to him. Fear not, I bring you good news of great joy. For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior. He is Christ the Lord. He is the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. He is outside of time. The God who gives us good things, that baby in the manger, Isaiah 4:22. This is him. 40:22. It is he who sits above the circle of the earth. Its inhabitants are like grasshoppers. He stretches out the heavens like a curtain and spreads them like a tent to dwell in. He's the one that gives you every breath. He is the one that gives you every meal. He is the one that gives you every good thing, every reason for hope, every bit of worth that you have. He is the baby in the manger. This God who stretches the heavens out like a canopy, that he dwells in like a tent. This same God is the God when Job dared to question him. Job 38:4, God replies, where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth? Tell me if you have understanding. Job's like, God, this isn't right, this is wrong, whatever. Where were you, Job, when I laid the foundation of the earth? Tell me if you have understanding. He goes on for 2 chapters. God speaks to Job. Things like, where were you? Who shut in the sea with doors when it burst out from the womb? Who made its clouds its garment, thick darkness, a swaddling band? Have you, Job, entered into the springs of the sea, or walked in the recesses of the deep? Have the gates of death been revealed to you? Have you seen the gates of deep darkness? Have you comprehended the expanse of the earth? Declare if you know all this, Job. 2 chapters, Job listened to that. Of God just saying, Job, remember who I am. Job's response, the Lord said to Job, shall a fault finder contend with the Almighty? He who argues with God, let him answer. That's how God ended it. You're going to contend with me? What did Job respond after that 2 chapters? Behold, I am of small account. What shall I answer you? I lay my hand over my mouth. Sound like James, guys? I have spoken once and I will not answer. Twice I will proceed no further. Job just remembered who God was. When the apostles, Acts chapter 4, were threatened to not speak anymore about Jesus, sent out, their life at risk, they went back to the other believers, gathered together, and instead of praying to be delivered from the persecution, they asked for boldness in the persecution, to be strong for God. Why? How? They knew who God was. They opened their whole prayer with this, Acts 4, 24, 25. When they heard, they lifted their voices together, and God said, Sovereign Lord, who made the heaven and the earth and the sea and everything in them, who through the mouth of our father David, your servant, said by the Holy Spirit, why did the Gentiles rage and the people plot in vain? Man runs around, thinks he's making his plans, he's got this, and he's his own little God, and they recognize it's vanity. This is God you are plotting against. This is God you think you're fooling. God. He has seen empires rise, he has seen them fall. He is both the lawgiver and the judge. He alone in all the heavens and earth is good. He is the God that toyed with Pharaoh's magicians, letting them think Satan's power might actually for a while match God. And then at some point he said, okay, enough. Now let me show you what real power looks like. And left them just, and then just to top it off, he parted an ocean and swallowed their army up. This is our God. He is mighty, ferocious, holy. There is none like him, none over him, and none equal to him. He is our creator, maker, our king over all kings, our Lord over all lords. And when we look at him, like David, our cry should be, who are we that you are mindful of us? But then this word, this 3-letter word that rocks our world. Psalm 8:5. Yet. Who are we? I mean, seriously, friends, who are we? That God would be mindful of us and love us and give us hope and goodness and promise and come into this world to save us, yet he did. In this context, that is one of the most powerful words in the entire Bible, I think. Yet he did. And it doesn't blow our mind until we remind ourselves who he is. The reminder of who he is what makes those moments where we just go, where Christmas becomes not just, it's a fun season. I love the movies, I love the food, I love the gifts, I love it all. But if we're not careful, we miss that we should be flat on our face, going, who am I? And yet, you did this. You who speak the stars into place, humbled yourself and lay in a manger, a borrowed bed that was of animals' feed trough for me. That should take those Christmas songs and fill them with a joy that you cannot contain. It should take this Christmas season, the carols, these great songs that have been treasured in just the word, just that put our eyes on this baby who is God, who loves us, who has plans for us. It's God. Do we have, Chuck, the communion elements? Are they ready? You want to go ahead and pass those out, please. We're going to take communion. I know often I like to do communion where I give you time to examine yourself. You know, last thing we want to be is the Corinthians that partake of this remembrance of the body and blood of Christ with practicing sin and not dealing with God in that. But this morning, we're just going to take it together. I feel like this is the fitting end to this morning. Because as we reflect on Christmas, on the goodness in our life, on Christmas and what it means, and who this God is, I don't believe that we can have a response to the body and blood of Christ that is not one filled with awe and thankfulness. Because that same baby I've just described in the manger, this God, the star-breathing, law-giving, judgment-wielding, maker, king, Lord, sovereign one, who spreads the heavens out. He's not just that baby in the manger, he's the man filleted beyond recognition of as a man on a cross. His blood pouring out, the last drops of his life being given, so you and I might enter into relationship with him in a new covenant, a new way. That it is not based on works, it is no longer based on the law, but it is based on his work, what he did here for us. This God is who we remember in communion, this covenant. We're not under the old covenant. We're not under the law. He came and fulfilled that, and He paid the price for it. That we might live in relationship. Think of the difference because of the cross. God is so holy, and He is so amazing and so ferocious that when God was on the mountain with Moses, He told them, put a guard, put whatever to protect the mountain. Do not let anyone come touch this mountain, because if they touch the mountain, they will die. If they touch the mountain I am on, they will die. Because I am holy, and I am God. Moses would come down from talking with God, and the glory of God would so shine from his face that he had to cover his face because the people were terrified. The people would say to Moses, we don't want to approach God. You go talk to God and come tell us what He said. That's the old covenant. But because of what He did on this cross, He says, come with confidence before my throne of grace. He says, my Spirit now dwells in you. Call me Abba, Father. I have adopted you as my own. I don't just call you servants, I call you my friends. Joint heirs with my Son of all my riches. The God who said if you touch the mountain I stand on, you will die. This is our God. This is the God who puts every bit of goodness in our life. This is the God that lay in that manger. When we set out the nativity, this is that God. And this Christmas, you'll be rocked by the realization of who that baby is. That He would do this. Who are we? That He is mindful of us. And yet, I think we should all make t-shirts and all they say on them is yet. People go, did we drop a letter? Is that like the Yeti mug? No, but let me tell you what it is. Yet. You could do a whole gospel share around that word yet. Because it means there was something before that is so crazy that what you're about to say should not happen. But yet, it did. Who are we that you are mindful of us, and yet you have lifted us up second only to you on the throne? Yeah. So right now we remember this God who came and He hung on that cross. And we take this cracker reminiscent of His body, broken, filleted. I believe it's Isaiah that said, marred beyond recognition as a man. His flesh torn asunder, ripped down to muscle and bone. For you and for me. Who are we that He would do that? Yet, take this and be honor. As He hung on that cross, He, the star breather, the lawgiver, the judge, King of kings and Lord of lords, His blood dripped out just to make sure they stuck a spear in His side and pierced the sack by His heart and water and blood poured. And as that life poured out in His blood, and He died, He ushered in a new covenant, which He tells us to drink this in remembrance of. The new covenant that says, you do not come now to me on your own merit, you come to me on my merit, on my work. This is the message of Christmas. Jesus, God who saves, Emmanuel, God with us. I will never leave you or forsake you. And that covenant of no fear, but rather confidence before God. No condemnation, none, because it's all been taken on the cross. It's purchased by His blood. And as we take this now, we remember that. So I encourage you to do so. You are loved. You are precious. Though you brought nothing to the table, he set the table before you in the presence of your enemies. And he said, sit with me and feast, my beloved one. And you look in the mirror and you go, what is there that is beloved about me? And he says, I don't see anything but good. It's done. You're my pride and joy, the apple of my eye, my child. I delight in you. I sing over you. Do you know God sings over you? I hope that this Christmas is the most joyous season you will ever have as you remember who that baby in the manger is. And not just joy, but awe and wonder, exuberant, fall on your face, praise and glory, and rise with shouts of song and dance. Behold, fear not, I bring you good news of great joy be unto all of you. As we close in song, then Alex is going to come up and close us in prayer. He's going to pray for the food. When he's done, guys, we can set up some tables, throw some chairs around, and let's just break a little bread for a few minutes and enter in December. God bless you all.
Dear Lord, I thank you for this day. I thank you for the wonderful weather we've been having. And I pray that everyone's holidays, Christmas season this year is just a blessed one, and that everyone will travel safely during the holidays, and that you would bless this food to our bodies, and we would have a good time fellowship.